Is prepared. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jennifer Storm. I am the Strategic Partnership and Outreach Consultant for the National Crime Victim Law Institute. Welcome to our NCVLI-RISE, Rights in Action Live Lunchtime Series. This is a series that we're hosting during National Crime Victims' Rights Week, which is what we're in right now. National Crime Victims' Rights Week is a great week that we set aside nationally to create awareness of victims' rights, honor the achievements of victim services, and to really elevate victims' voices. We're going to be here live again tomorrow, and we're going to be Mountain Standard Time tomorrow because we're going to be going to Arizona virtually. And then we're going to be back here on Friday, and that one will be Eastern Standard Time. What we're doing is we're traveling across the country talking to our legal partners who have sought technical assistance from the National Crime Victim Law Institute. So many people don't know, but NCVLI is a primary technical assistance provider in the space of victims' rights. And we field thousands of requests and respond to requests annually. We encourage you to seek out our expertise anytime that you might be facing a challenge or having a concern that's about elevating and advancing and activating the legal rights that crime victims have. So it's Tuesday, and we're super excited to have with us Mariam El-menshawi, and she is from California, and she's going to be talking specifically about the work that she does in her clinic and around the technical assistance that she requested from NCVLI. So welcome, Mariam. So nice to see you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
No, I'm super excited. So tell me a little bit about, I know that the technical assistance that you sought specifically was around the rights for fairness and respect, right? And sometimes those can be ambiguous rights. So can you kind of walk us through, what happened and what was the challenge you were facing?
Sure, absolutely. So we were contacted by an advocate who was assisting a minor victim of sexual assault, and they were in the middle of a jury trial. And this was, of course, happening in the first few months of the pandemic. So there was a lot of uncertainty regarding, court policies and protocols. The victim was subpoenaed to testify in this case, and she requested to have an advocate present with her as a support person while she testified, which is her right under California law. Unfortunately, the judge denied that request, citing COVID. While he acknowledged that victims have rights and a right to a support person, he said that it's his authority to also not allow people in the courtroom. So he wouldn't allow the support person to be present with the victim while she testified.
Gotcha. So in that moment, which it kind of feels almost shocking, right? Because California has Marsy's Law, right? So you have those kind of holy grail constitutional rights, but there's so much work that has to be done to educate judges. So in that moment, what was at stake for that survivor?
Yeah, in this case, the victim, remember, was a minor, was facing a situation where she was going to have to be alone in a courtroom with the defendant and other courtroom personnel, and she was going to be required to testify about something really traumatic, right, without having the support person there. And let's think about why victims have the right to a support person. Victims have the right to a support person because it can be very stressful and traumatic to have to discuss and talk about the details of an assault, especially for a minor, but for anybody. And the support person is really there to provide comfort to the victim during this very arduous process and make the victim just feel just a little bit more comfortable as she's doing that. So all of that was going to be taken away from the victim, and we believe that it wasn't right and it wasn't fair, and it was a violation of the victim's right to be treated with fairness and respect under California law.
Absolutely. I mean, it's incredibly scary for adults, but when you're a child, to not have some point of comfort in a traumatic kind of experience, so I'm so grateful you guys were there. What did the technical assistance provide for you, and why did it matter that you could access technical assistance from NCVLI?
Yeah, great question. I mean, technical assistance was critical here because we're dealing with a whole new set of protocols and rules due to COVID, right? There are a lot of exceptions and courts are doing all sorts of things. There's no playbook. And we were also under a time crunch. The judge denied the victim's request to a support person, and she was due to testify that same week. So it was very time sensitive. And the best option I had was to reach out to our national experts at the National Crime Victim Law Institute and seek their guidance and input. I was able to connect with the NCVLI team right away, and they helped us with the arguments. They helped us provide ideas on how to most effectively approach this issue and address this victim's rights violation. And thanks to their guidance, the judge actually changed the ruling in this case and allowed the victim to have the support person while she testified.
That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you for doing that for them. So if you're a survivor or a victim or an allied professional out there, what's some of your advice for them in order to protect this right in the future, right? Like this feels like a fundamental victims' right. But even in a state like California, where we have constitutional rights in Marsy's law, it was almost denied. What advice would you give to a survivor or a victim or another allied professional?
And I'll go back to what NCVLI has taught me over the years I've worked with them, and that's always to be thinking for creative ways to ensure that victims' rights are protected and enforced, right? There's not a lot of case law out there, so we really have to be creative in our approach. And this is especially true during the current time that we're in with the pandemic, where there's a lot of changes to protocols. So I think thinking outside the box and then, consulting with the experts to get ideas and to brainstorm is the best way to make sure that this right is protected in the future.
Do you have any of those tips or any of those tools around this kind of really important right that you could share? Any of those creative thoughts that came up while you were engaging technical assistance?
Yeah, I mean, I think the right to fairness and respect, as you mentioned, is a very broad right? So it's hard to kind of find a lot of specifics. It's a very broad right. So I think what we really have to always consider is whether the system players are dealing with victims in a fair and respectful way at every step of the process. That's how we have to be looking at it. And I always ask myself, would the system be treating the defendant's rights this way? So in terms of taking a right away from the defendant or not affording a defendant a particular statutory right even. And if not, then that should be triggering to, okay, we need to intervene here. We need to fight to make sure that the victim's rights are protected and enforced.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is certainly not a right that infringes in any way, shape, or form upon the right of the accused. Just for a child to have a supportive person in a courtroom kind of makes sense.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So what else about NCVLI would you recommend in terms of their advocates and their attorneys? If you were meeting somebody for the first time who didn't know anything about NCVLI, what would you recommend about them?
Oh my goodness. So I wouldn't be doing the work that I'm doing, but for NCVLI's presence. NCVLI really is the backbone of the victims' rights movement and the anchor to all of us victim rights attorneys across the country. I could not imagine being a victims' rights attorney without the support and technical assistance that NCVLI provides. They really are knowledgeable, they're available, they're there to help. They'll provide you with everything that you need to help the victim ensure that their rights protected. So NCVLI really is a critical agency for all of the victims' rights attorneys across the country. And I look forward to continuing to partner with them to advance victims' rights, not only in California, but across the country.
Wonderful. Well, no doubt we will be partners for a very long time. We have a huge asset in you. So I heard that you went through a bit of a Facebook change with your organization. So do you want to talk a little bit about that and then give folks the new link to your new Facebook page?
Yeah, absolutely. So our Facebook, we had technical issues with our Facebook. We weren't able to access it with our old one. So our new Facebook handle, it's CA, so California Victims of Crime Resource Center. We hope that you like our page and follow us. And I appreciate you letting folks know because we only have a few followers. We had thousands of followers and then we lost all of them, unfortunately.
Yes, it's hard. So they used to be 1-800-VICTIMS,
Exactly.
And now you can find them. We have the link in our event, and we're also going to add the link to the chat here. But please seek out their organization if you are in California, if you are needing a compassionate voice to kind of walk you through your rights as a crime victim. Mariam and her staff there are amazing. So thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate this. So thank you guys for taking a couple minutes in your lunchtime to chat with us and to learn a little bit more about victims' rights. Join us again here tomorrow. Again, it's going to be noon Mountain Standard Time. We're going to have Colleen Class from the Arizona Voice for Crime Victims with us. And we're going to be talking about restitution and some incredible work they're doing there with restitution. So to learn more about the National Crime Victim Law Institute and our RISE project, or just ways that you can simply activate and elevate victims' rights, please go to ncvli.org today and learn more about the great work that we're doing and learn more about the work that Mariam and other attorneys across the country are doing to make sure that crime victims' rights are meaningful and engaged. Thank you, and until next time.